Now we've started 2022 and it's time to look back on 2021. And looking back, 2021 is probably the most eventful year that I've had in my life. Oh my god, lots happened in 2021. And 2021 started with action for me. By the turn of the year, I was already brooding birds. Actually, I was 2 weeks into the brooding of a flock of commercial layers, and that was on my very first farm. I actually do still have that farm now, but that was when I was still fully on that farm and I wasn't involved in any other farming activities in another location. And right there, by 1st January 2022, it was already stressful. I was already brooding birds and I had lost over 300 birds just in the first few weeks of brooding. So it had been quite stressful. The birds died because they had come from a foreign country. The birds had been imported in from Hungary. It was a breed called Tetra SL. And so because of the long journey, it was probably 3 or 4 days before they reached the farm, they had gotten really tired. And I lost quite a number of them. But then after that, I recovered well. The population grew really well, and they actually started production at the exact time I expected them. In fact, even a little bit earlier, because by the 17th week, instead of the 18th week, they had started production, and I was a very happy farmer. Unfortunately for that flock, they got infected. They got fall typhoid, and that's because I was lax. I let people gain access to the chicken house. The people who were staying around the area, they could very easily gain access to the chicken house. They could move in and out whenever they want. And then we had local chickens around the area. Those local chickens would also, move into the area because they wanted to scratch. Then they move out. It was very hard to keep them out. And then my dad also had a batch of birds that we kept on the lower floor of that house because really he didn't have anywhere else to keep them. So of course I had to be nice as a good son. And so you can't really be certain where the infection came from, honestly, but I really do believe it was because I was lax that I got a problem. So the birds got sick right when they were supposed to be hitting peak production, and I had to cull the birds. So I sold off most of the birds. And that also happened at a really bad time because it was at about that time that I lost my grandmother, who had been looking after the farm and doing the supervision. So everything came at just the wrong time. So I got done with that flock. I cleaned out the chicken house, and I was supposed to bring in a new batch of birds probably 2 or 3 months later, but I decided to give it a bit more time so that I clean out the space. So I do believe that in this year 2022 I'm going to be bringing in a new flock, 2,000 birds coming in at a go. And then by the turn of the year, by the turn of 2020 into 2021, I was at a point of thinking of quitting medicine. So I wanted to quit medicine by the end of 2021 because I'd thought about it, starting the year before. I really wanted to expand my farming adventures and go as far as possible. But the opportunity struck a bit earlier for me than I would have imagined. So I had a friend who had actually just acquired a very huge farm. And so we thought, what about we do proper farming? I should do proper farming on a big farm. It would be a good idea. This was 400 acres of land, not too much activity going on. So how about we try out something starting from scratch? So yeah, guys, I quit my job and decided to focus on running the 2 farms. So the farm was really huge, and for the most part it was void and empty. It had been mainly a bush in most of the areas. And so the first thing to do, really, if you're going to be running a farm, is to make sure that you have water, because the farm is located in what we would call the dry belt of my country. So the first thing we had to do is dig up wells and boreholes, and that was done really properly. And then we had to spread the water into most of the parts of the farm, and so that involved setting up pipelines to take the water to the different areas of the farm to enable the cattle, the goats and the sheep, the human beings, and anything else that would come up to access water. So that we actually did manage to solve. That did take us a very long time. Then the next thing was to solve the power problem. There was no direct power, electricity, hydroelectric power access to the farm. So that was solved using solar, and I've shared a video about this specifically on the channel. I've actually shared videos about the water problem and the power problem, so those videos I'll actually leave in links in the description. Then the other thing is that we decided to streamline the poultry project that was going on the farm. So before that, there was lots of chickens on the farm. These were local chickens, maybe 20-30 chickens on the farm. They didn't have any house where they would stay, so they would lay their eggs in the bushes, hatch their chicks in the bushes, they would sleep on trees. So we decided, get them a proper place. So we built a chicken area. Started by building a small chicken house, got the local chickens to move inside there. Then we fenced that area so that the local chickens, never needed to move out completely. They can stay in that area, and we don't have them disturbed. We don't have predators coming to feed on them, dogs around coming to feed on them, and that worked out really well. So the local chicken population currently on the farm is at about 140 birds. That's up from about 20 or 30 in March. So that's proper progress, and we could even have done better, but because of too much focus on other things, we probably didn't give it the attention that it needed. But still, you can see the growth. That's really, really, really good growth that we are proud of. And then after that, because I had a problem with the old chicks for layers before on my other farm, I decided that, we should probably do layer breeders in order to provide better services to people in the country. So we went with layer breeders, and so towards the end of May we had about 3,500 day-old chicks come in, and these were layer breeders, and these grew up really, really well. Oh my god, I'm so proud of what we were able to achieve over here, what I did, what everyone around did, the whole team that we have on the farm. They performed really, really well. And recently, in December, the birds reached production. Actually, my previous video, the video just before this one on the channel, is about me giving out these birds. So the birds did really, really, really well. So proud of it. And these are high quality day-old chicks. So the birds actually already started going on sale, and you can actually order, day-old chicks, layers, high quality. That's if you're in Uganda. We shall later spread out into the nearby countries, but for now it's Uganda. And so we've also decided to do month-old chicks or pullets. Those are birds that have finished brooding. That's for people who, are having a problem. They're thinking, it's my very first time, I don't know how I'll handle brooding. We've also decided to help you out, so you can also order these chicks from us. And then again in December, we decided to bring in more layer breeders. So currently we have about 10,000 layer breeders on the farm, though just about 3,000 of them are in production. The other 7,000 are currently just brooding, and they're in their first few weeks of life. The other thing that we did was the dual purpose birds. You guys have seen the dual purpose birds on the channel, These are birds that also came in just a week after the layer breeders had come in. So that was in the first week of June. And they grew up really, really well. We didn't have any problem with disease. We didn't get any diseases with our breeder birds, even the dual purpose birds. And they reached production. They started laying eggs. We kept them on a semi-free range system where they're out for half of the day, and then half of the day they're on the inside. We give them food simply because the environment and the area around wasn't enough for them to be able to forage and get everything that they need from the ground. So we decided to do a semi-intensive system. They grew up really, really well, but then recently we had to get rid of them simply because of the risk. The risk is too high, considering they're on the outside and they kind of have access to birds of the air. The risk of getting diseases that come from the air from other birds is quite high, and that puts our entire breeder population at a risk of getting disease. So we had to get rid of them. We probably have just a few, maybe 10 or so left, and those are for our consumption. We're going to get done with them very soon, and that's not a big problem. The other thing that we focused on a bit is the geese. So we started the year with just 2 geese, and then I brought in 2 geese from my other farm, but then one of the geese died, so we remained with 1 gander and 3 geese. Those reproduced, and we've gotten 3 more goslings. So right now we are at 6. Probably not the best, considering we had about 20 eggs or so laid, but not the worst. The number has increased. We'll probably do a bit better. The geese we're going to send down to the pond that we have on the farm so that they move and live on the water. And the other thing that I decided to do was guinea fowls. I started with about 10 fertilized eggs. I hatched about 7, 2 of them died. I got 6, and then we got a few from the wild. So we have about 8 guinea fowls currently on the farm. Those I'm also not going to get rid of. We shall take them to the fenced area around the pond that we have on the farm, and hopefully they will multiply, and we shall get bigger numbers. I'm really enthusiastic about the guinea fowls and the geese. The other thing that was earlier on the farm was cattle. So just when the farm was taken over, there was already cattle on the farm, but the cattle were very, very sickly. We had a calf die almost every week. So a lot of effort had to go into treating them and making sure they recover from any illnesses that they had, weekly spraying to make sure that we kill any ticks and parasites that they might have on their bodies. And at the beginning, the cattle, we decided to move them onto one of the upper paddocks that we have on the farm, and we surrounded that paddock with an electric fence, and that electric fence was in the ground using wooden posts. That's probably a lesson we learned, because all the wooden posts in a space of less than 2 months were eaten up by termites. It was something that we had to learn, that you can't just use wood over here on the farm. We have too many termites, and to just be stupid, the structure is just going to fall down super quick. So later on, we moved the cattle back into the kraal, and at the beginning of the year, we probably had about 120 cattle, and then we sold about 50 of the cattle. And currently we have about 150 cattle. So we've again reproduced. We've had the cattle over the past few days. The cattle have really reproduced. The numbers have gone really high, and luckily for us, we've now started having females. Earlier on, out of about 17 calves that were delivered, we only had 2 females. All the others had been males. So thankfully, the cows have decided to get back to giving us females. And yes, we collect milk from the cows and we sell them in the nearby communities, and it's a good project. The other thing that we did for the cattle, also and the goats and the sheep, is that we turned the pump. The pump was mainly running on a generator, that's fossil fuel, diesel, but we decided to make it a solar pump, and I really do think that's very good progress from us. Very positive progress. It saves us the cost, and it gives us a more clean source of energy for us to manage the farm. The other project that we try to focus on are the goats and the sheep. Earlier on, at the beginning of the year, we had about 350 in total of the goats and the sheep. Again, a lot of them were dying due to illness, being sickly, but currently we've tried to reproduce that number. So currently we stand at about almost 700 goats and sheep. So that's a very good number. We've literally doubled what we had near the beginning of the year. So that's good progress. But the goat and sheep shed that we have currently, it's really terrible. It's terrible. It's built poorly. It's an old style, old fashioned. So over the past few months, we started building a proper goat house. It's going to be really big. It's going to be a nice goat house, because we want to be able to have the capacity to keep maybe 5,000 or 10,000 goats and sheep. So that project we've actually paused currently, because we are trying to focus on the chickens and properly build the structure that we're going to be using to raise our layer parent stock that you've already seen on the farm. But we shall be getting back to that, and I'm very happy and excited about what we are doing with the goats and the sheep. And then the other project, which is probably the one that we've focused on the least, is the bees. So we didn't have any bees over here. Of course, there was stray bees, if you'd call them stray bees, traveler bees. We would see lots of bees passing by the farm, and we decided to venture into the project. So we have a teak tree forest on the farm, and we decided to get a few beehives and place them on the inside of the forest. It's certainly a slow project, because you have to wait and probably just do nothing. You put the beehives inside the forest after you've trapped the bees, and do nothing. Just wait for when the bees come in, and then we've had a few setbacks. Some of the bees have run out, but most of the bees are actually still inside. So we are hopeful that we're going to have very, very good results with the bees. So as you can see, it's been quite an eventful year for us right from the beginning. A lot has happened. It's unimaginable what can be done in just 1 year. A lot has changed. We built a very huge chicken house for the breeders. We are building other houses. We started massive projects, and I'm looking forward to what can happen next year. And I feel very, very proud and happy to be involved in such an impactful thing in our community, in Uganda. Ideally, in the grand scheme of things, it's not something very, very big. But when you come down to the impact of what is happening in the village and the people around, it's very, very impactful, and I do believe that greater things are going to happen for us even in the coming year. Actually, one of my next few videos is going to be about the goals for 2022 and our expectations for the year. Thanks guys for watching. I really appreciate everyone on Farm Up for always catching up with the videos, watching, supporting me, liking, subscribing, buying the chickens when we put them up for sale, trusting us. I really appreciate, and I love you guys a lot. I really do. I do. Lots of love. Bye bye.